Are you stuck for dinner ideas? Rustle up this pizza dough and get your family creating their own homemade pizzas. Dinner sorted. Hello memory makers, it's Ashley and welcome back to our kitchen. And if you're new here, welcome to Meals Make Memories, where each week I share with you family-friendly recipes that help us busy people cook, connect and create with those we love. So click that subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss out. So coming up right now are all the ingredients you will need for the pizza dough. Now don't forget you can find all of the ingredients in the description box as well as measurements and the yield that this dough will make. Now today we will be using yeast, which means that we do need to leave time for the dough to rise. So please factor that into your planning. Now our first step is to put all of our dry ingredients together in the bowl. So that includes the flour, the yeast, as well as 2 teaspoons of salt. Now if you're using a salt shaker, I would just use a couple of dashes and that should be sufficient. And we can just mix that around to make sure that the yeast is well dispersed throughout all of the flour mix. The next thing we need to do is make a little well in the center, and that's where we're going to be putting in our liquid. So we're first going to add the 25 ml of olive oil, mix that in together. Then we're going to add the warm milk. Now the natural sugars in the milk are going to feed the yeast and essentially activate it for us. Then the last step is to add our water. Now we want to do this gradually, stirring along as we go, because we don't want the mixture to be too wet and we don't want to have to add additional flour after. So as soon as you can see that your dough is starting to form and you're getting clumps of dough sticking together, then that should be the right amount of water. However, if you have been a bit heavy-handed with your liquid, don't panic, you can just add more flour to the mixture and eventually you'll get it to look something like this. Now once your dough is starting to clump together, we're going to prepare to knead. So I would definitely advise taking off rings or anything where dough can get stuck inside. Scoop everything off the spoon so that nothing is wasted, and then just use your hands to pack together as much of the flour and dough as you can into one handful or one ball of dough. At this point it shouldn't feel sticky, it should just feel nice and soft, kind of like Play-Doh. Flouring the surface will just stop your dough from sticking to your table and creating more mess. But the kneading process itself is quite simple. You just want to use the heel of your palm to stretch the dough out and then fold it back in on itself and repeat. And you just need to knead for around 5 minutes in order to get the right texture. After just a couple of minutes, your dough should be a bit more stretchy, and then you can add any additional flavors. For example, chopped chives or even crushed garlic if you like that garlic bread flavor in your dough. Now any fresh vegetables or crushed garlic might make your dough a bit more sticky, but you can counterbalance that by just adding a bit more flour. After kneading all of that in again for a couple more minutes, making sure that any additional ingredients are mixed evenly throughout the dough, you will see that it will become a lot more elastic, a lot more stretchy, and that is when you know that your dough has been fully kneaded and is ready to rise. Once you've packed your dough into a nice little ball, you can bring back your mixing bowl, place it gently into the middle, and you're going to coat it with a little bit of oil. And the reason for this is that as it rises, it may stick to the cling film that it's been wrapped in, and we want to just avoid wasting any dough. So we're just going to lightly coat everything in oil, grab our cling film, cover over the surface so that no air can escape, and then we're going to place it in a nice warm place to rise. Now, a little hack, if you have a dryer, Run the dryer for a couple of minutes. That makes it nice and warm, and then you can place your dough right in there, and it's perfect for helping your dough to rise. So after an hour and a half, you should see that your dough has at least doubled in size, and it will be slightly springy and a little bit sticky to touch. Once that's done, we're going to flour our surface again, and we're just going to knock the air out of this freshly risen dough. And we're going to do a little kneading again to manipulate it a little bit more and shape it one last time before we cut it into portions. Now, I know it seems like there is a lot of kneading, but honestly, it's so therapeutic. And if you've got any stress, this is the perfect stress reliever. You can just get everything out into that dough, and at the end of it, you'll just have beautiful pizza. It's a win-win. Now, for portion sizes, in our house, everyone likes to have their own pizza to do their own toppings. So, for this amount of ingredients, I would recommend dividing everything into four because one of those portions is a good size for an individual pizza. Now, any dough that you don't wish to use on that day can be easily frozen. You just wrap it in cling film, chuck it in the freezer, and when you're ready to use it again, you just defrost it as you would anything else. Now, shortly, I will show you the delicious toppings I chose for this mini pizza. And if you want some more pizza topping ideas, hit the subscribe button for more pizza inspiration videos. Now, here's a little tip when it comes to shaping your dough. You might find after rolling that some of the corners still have a thick amount of dough there. So you can just tease that out slowly with your fingertips, evening it out bit by bit to make sure that it's as thin as possible. Once the dough has been rolled to your preferred thickness, you just need to transfer it to a piece of foil paper and then do one more roll just to make sure everything's flat and that it's ready for the toppings. Now, for my base, I chose pesto, and I really feel like it's such an underrated base. It's fresh, it's herby, and it just makes a really nice alternative to tomato. But if you're missing tomato, you can always add a little bit of tomato puree just to get that nice little tangy flavor. Now, I love onions, so thinly sliced red onions were a must. They can really add a nice crunch as well as just a nice delicate flavor. Now, for my protein, I chose some roast chicken. You can use leftover roast chicken if you've just had a Sunday roast, but if you're feeling lazy like me, you can just grab a pack from your local supermarket. Now, the sun-dried tomatoes were the underrated champion in this. They were just so juicy and fruity and just gave such a beautiful flavor along with the pesto. If you love cheese, as I do, it's a must. That mozzarella must be there, as well as cheddar. So combining those two, you get the stringiness of the mozzarella cheese as well as the saltiness from the mature cheddar. And there you have it, homemade pizza dough to get the whole family involved in creating their own dinner masterpiece. For more family-friendly recipes for even the busiest people, press that subscribe button and join us next week. Thanks for watching.